She said it so softly I almost thought I imagined it. The hallway light flickered once, and then there was just her voice. Low, steady, a little tired. I don't want to be alone tonight. Then the sound of her door latch clicking open. I didn't move at first. Maybe because I shouldn't have. Maybe because I didn't trust what that sentence meant coming from her. The woman who always waved politely, who smelled faintly of citrus and laundry soap when we passed on the stairs, who carried herself like someone used to being watched but never truly seen. Her name was Elena. Mid-40s, recently divorced, though she never talked about it. The ring was gone. The tone in her voice, though, that stayed. Something in it felt unfinished. We'd spoken before. Just small things. Packages left in the wrong mailbox. A borrowed screwdriver. Once, coffee on her porch when the power went out in the whole building. I remember the way she laughed then. Short, quiet, as if laughter wasn't something she allowed herself much anymore. Tonight, she was standing there in the soft glow from her living room, one shoulder against the doorframe. Her hair was down. Not perfect, not styled, just loose. It brushed her collarbone. The kind of detail you notice only if you're paying too much attention. You okay? I asked. It sounded stupid the second it left my mouth. She smiled, faint, uneven. I said I didn't want to be alone, she repeated, as if answering a question I hadn't asked. The air between us felt different. Not heavy, just close. Inside, her apartment was dim, warm light from a single lamp spilling across the floor. I caught a glimpse of 2 glasses on the counter, one still half full. Maybe she'd been waiting for someone else. Maybe that someone hadn't come. I hesitated in the doorway. She turned and walked a few steps inside, not looking back. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Her voice came again, quieter this time. You can come in if you want. I stepped over the threshold before I decided to. The door stayed open behind me. The room smelled faintly of wine and something floral, jasmine, maybe. A record was spinning somewhere, the needle scratching gently at the end of a song. She reached to stop it but didn't. The silence that followed felt louder than music. She picked up her glass, looked at it for a long time, then set it down untouched. I keep forgetting how quiet it gets at night, she said. It's strange. I used to love quiet. I didn't answer. She glanced up at me, and for a second it felt like she wanted me to. Then she looked away. The clock on the wall ticked. Steady, intrusive. She crossed her arms, like she'd just realized how close I was standing. I noticed her fingers tracing the edge of her sleeve, the way people do when they're not sure what to do with their hands. You don't have to stay, she said, though she didn't sound like she meant it. I know. Her eyes flicked to mine, sharp, then soft again. Something unspoken lingered there, caught halfway between invitation and apology. A draft moved through the open door. She turned slightly as if to close it, but didn't. Instead, she looked back at me. A single question caught behind her quiet breath. Do you ever hate the sound of your own thoughts? The hallway light buzzed again. I took a step closer. Not enough to touch her, just enough to feel the warmth coming off her skin. She didn't move away. And then a knock. Sharp, sudden, breaking the moment clean in two. She froze. The door still open behind me. The question still hanging in the air, unanswered. The knock faded, followed by the shuffle of footsteps retreating down the hall. Neither of us moved for a few seconds after. Just the hum of the refrigerator and that clock again, ticking like it was keeping score. Elena exhaled. Slow. Just the neighbor upstairs. He forgets his mail sometimes. Her tone was light, but her shoulders didn't ease. She turned toward the kitchen and reached for the bottle of wine. You want some? I don't really drink, I said. She poured anyway. You're too young to say that. There it was, the thing between us finally spoken, even if just hinted. I smiled, awkward. She slid a glass across the counter toward me. Her fingers brushed mine when I took it, deliberate or not, I couldn't tell. The touch felt quick, but it stayed longer than it should have in my mind. I was married at your age, she said, almost to herself. 23. Thought I knew everything. Her voice had that distant sound people get when they're not really talking to you, but to the memory instead. I stayed quiet. He liked everything quiet, too, just on his terms. She laughed, but it came out brittle. Funny how people who can't stand noise end up being the loudest thing in your head. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't. I just watched her lean against the counter, her hand circling the rim of her glass. Her ring finger was pale where a band used to be, skin that hadn't seen light in years. She caught me looking. "Don't feel sorry for me," she said. "I don't." Her eyes searched mine, suspicious, then curious. "Then what?" I started, but stopped, saying it would have been too much. She tilted her head. "You just what?" "I just noticed things." "Like what?" I hesitated. Then, "Like how you laugh differently when you think no one's listening." That caught her off guard. A small smile tugged at her lips. Not defensive, just real this time. She looked down, then away, as if she needed to break the eye contact before it gave something away. "You shouldn't notice things like that," she said softly. "I can't help it." A pause. She took a step closer, maybe unconsciously, the faint scent of her shampoo catching in the air between us. My hand rested on the counter. Hers came down beside it, close enough that our fingers almost touched. "People talk, you know," she said quietly. "About neighbors. About things that look like more than they are. I don't care what people think. You should." But she didn't move her hand. For a long moment, the only sound was the soft hum of the refrigerator. I could feel the warmth of her skin just an inch from mine. That strange, magnetic pull that doesn't need permission. Then she whispered, "You should go before it gets harder to." I didn't move. Neither did she. Her fingers finally brushed against mine. Slow, almost accidental, before she pulled back. "I'll walk you out," she said. But her voice was unsteady now, like even she didn't believe she meant it. At the door I turned. She was standing there, half in shadow, her hand still resting on the counter where mine had been. Neither of us said goodbye. The door closed softly, but not all the way. It had been 2 weeks since that night. 2 weeks since the door that didn't close all the way. We saw each other in the hallway sometimes. The polite kind of small talk that pretends there's nothing beneath it. But the pauses between words always lasted a little too long. Then one evening, I found her outside by the mailboxes. Rain had just stopped, the smell of wet pavement thick in the air. Her hair was damp, strands sticking to her cheek. "Hey," I said. She looked up, smiled faintly. "Hey yourself." Her hand was holding a letter, crumpled at the edges, unopened. She turned it over once, then tucked it into her coat pocket. "Everything okay?" She shrugged. "Just bills. And the lawyer." The word hung there. Lawyer. Divorce. Endings. I followed her up the stairs without thinking. She didn't tell me to stop. Inside, the lights were low again. The air still smelled like her, that soft jasmine scent that stuck to everything. "I made tea," she said. "It's nothing fancy, but I'd like that." She moved around the kitchen quietly, barefoot, her robe sleeves pushed up. The sight of her like that, unguarded, ordinary, did something to me I couldn't put into words. When she handed me the cup, her fingers brushed mine. Again that same pause, the one that held more meaning than whole conversations. "You keep looking at me like that," she said, half smiling, "and people really will start to talk. Maybe I want them to." Her eyes flicked up to mine, startled. Then she looked away, laughing softly. "You don't. Trust me." Something buzzed, sharp, cutting through the moment. Her phone. She reached for it, then froze when she saw the name on the screen. Her ex-husband's. The light from the phone reflected in her eyes, cold and flat. She silenced it and set it face down on the counter. "Sorry," she said. "He doesn't understand the meaning of finalized." "It's fine." But it wasn't. Her breath had changed, quick, shallow. I wanted to say something, to make it better, but words felt useless. So I just stood there, close enough to see the pulse in her neck, the tiny tremor in her hand. "I keep thinking I'm free," she murmured. "And then he calls and I feel like I'm still in that house." "You're not," She looked up. Our faces were too close now. Close enough that I could see the shine of her lip balm, the faint crease near her mouth. I shouldn't, she started, but didn't finish. Neither of us moved. The world went still. No cars, no ticking clock, just the sound of rain starting again outside. Then a knock. Both of us jumped. Her breath caught in her throat. "Wait here," she whispered. I stayed frozen as she opened the door just a few inches. A woman's voice, her friend, maybe, asked if she was okay. Elena answered quickly. Too quickly. "Yeah, just tired. I'm fine." The door shut again. She leaned against it, eyes closed, chest rising and falling fast. I set the cup down. She turned toward me, a trace of fear and something else, relief, maybe, flickering across her face. "I don't know what this is," she whispered. I stepped closer anyway. "Neither do I." For a long second, the space between us narrowed until there was almost nothing left. My hand hovered near her cheek. Not touching, just there. She didn't pull away. Then she did. Not far, just enough to breathe. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You should go." I nodded, but my feet didn't move. When I finally stepped back, she reached out, caught my sleeve, held it for a heartbeat, then let go. "Next time," she said quietly, "don't knock." It was late when I saw her light still on. The rest of the building was quiet. That heavy, middle-of-the-night kind of silence where every small sound feels like it matters. I told myself I was just checking if she was okay. That was the lie I used to get my hand on her doorknob. Turned easily. She was in the living room, sitting on the floor near the couch, wine glass half empty beside her. Her hair was pulled up, messy. The radio was playing something low, something slow. She didn't look surprised to see me. "You didn't knock," she said. "You told me not to." Faint smile. "I didn't think you'd listen." I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. She looked at the floor, then at me, eyes soft but wary. "You shouldn't keep coming over like this," she said. "Someone will notice." "Do you want me to stop?" Her silence lasted too long to be simple. She looked away first. "It's not that easy." I sat down across from her. The air was thick, charged, the kind you can almost taste. She took a sip of her drink and winced slightly. "Too strong," she said. "Then stop drinking it. Then I'd have to feel everything else." The words landed between us like a dare. I didn't answer, just reached out, gently taking the glass from her hand. Our fingers touched. She didn't pull away. "Why do you keep showing up?" she asked, voice quiet but strained. "You don't know what you're doing. I know I can't stop thinking about you." She flinched, just barely. Her breath caught, then steadied. "You think that's romantic?" she said softly. "It's not. I don't think it's anything. It just is." Her jaw tightened, the kind of restraint that hurts to hold. She looked up, eyes bright now, a mix of defiance and something close to panic. "You're too young," she said, almost pleading. "You'll wake up one day and hate that this ever happened. Then let me be the one to find that out." Her hand went to her hair, pushing it back, fingers trembling slightly. I could smell the faint trace of her perfume, warm against the cooler air of the room. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Then tell me." She looked at me for a long time, that deep, searching look that felt like it could undo me. Then she moved closer, slow enough that every inch mattered. When she finally reached me, she stopped, so close I could feel her breath when she spoke. "This is wrong," she said, but her voice cracked halfway through the word. I lifted my hand, brushed a strand of hair from her face. Her eyes closed at the touch. "Then why does it feel right?" I asked. Her hand came up, fingers grazing my wrist, holding it there for one suspended moment. The air between us felt alive, the kind of silence that could break into anything. Then a sound. Her phone again, the vibration sharp against the quiet. She froze, still holding my hand against her cheek. Neither of us looked at it. Her voice came out in a whisper that almost wasn't one. "If I answer that, it's over." I didn't move. "And if you don't?" Her eyes opened, glassy, caught between fear and something much stronger. She leaned in, lips barely parting, breath trembling against mine. Then it's too late. The next morning, her door stayed closed. No lights, no sound. By evening, I started to think I'd imagined everything. The way she'd looked at me, the way her breath had touched my skin when she whispered, "Too late." Then I found the envelope. Slipped under my door, plain white. No name, just my apartment number written in her looping handwriting. Inside, one line. "We need to stop before it gets cruel." No signature. I stood there for a long time, the paper trembling between my fingers. It wasn't anger that hit me. It was something worse. The kind of ache that feels like you already lost something you never even had. I went downstairs anyway. Knocked once. No answer. Her car was still in the lot, though. She was home. I waited a few minutes, then turned to leave, but the door opened halfway. She looked different. Tired. Her hair was up again, eyes shadowed. "I shouldn't have written that," she said before I could speak. "Then why did you?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. "You should come in." Inside, the room was dim, the blinds half drawn. There was a cup of coffee gone cold on the table, and a phone face down beside it. I recognized the screen when she turned it over. My name in a string of text messages. Every one of them unread. She caught my look and said, "He saw them." I frowned. "Who?" "My ex. He still has access to the phone plan. He called. Said he knows." I froze. "Knows what?" "That you've been here. That we—" She cut herself off, shaking her head. "He thinks it's something it's not." I almost laughed. Bitter, nervous. "Isn't it?" She looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time I couldn't tell if it was guilt or desire behind her eyes. Maybe both. "This is already dangerous," she said. "He could make trouble. He knows people. And you, me, you don't know what you'd be stepping into." I took a step closer. She didn't move back, but her breath quickened. "I don't care," I said quietly. "Yes, you do. You should." Her voice cracked at the edges. I could see her fighting it, the part of her that wanted to end this and the part that couldn't. "I can't do this again," she whispered. "Not another lie. Not another person I hurt." "You think you're hurting me?" Her hands trembled as she pressed them against her chest. "You don't understand. She stopped, swallowed hard. "I'm not the person you think I am." I stepped closer again, close enough that the space between us vanished into heat. "Then tell me who you are." She exhaled, eyes wet. "Someone who already crossed the line before you ever knocked." The words hit like a bruise I hadn't seen coming. We stood there, inches apart, both breathing too fast. Her hand brushed mine. Not a touch, just a ghost of one. "Then why let me in?" I asked. Her answer came out like a confession she didn't mean to say. "Because for the first time in years, I wanted someone to." The silence that followed was dangerous, the kind that makes choices for you. I reached out, slow, hesitant, until my fingers found hers. She didn't pull away. This time, neither of us said stop. The storm started just before midnight. Wind rattled the windows, rain running down in uneven streaks. Her lights were still on. I didn't plan to go. I just found myself there, standing outside her door, listening to the low hum of her TV and the steady sound of rain hitting the railing. She opened it before I could knock. "I knew you'd come," she said, voice low, almost calm. Inside, the air was warm, close. She was barefoot again, sweater slipping off one shoulder. There was something different in her. Quieter, resolved, like she'd already made peace with what might happen next. "I read your note again," I said. Her eyes flicked up, careful. "And I don't think you meant it." She gave a faint, broken smile. "Doesn't matter. Sometimes the right thing isn't the one you mean." Lightning flashed outside, painting her face in pale light. I stepped closer, enough to smell the faint trace of rain in her hair. "I don't want to stop," I said. She inhaled, slow. "You should. But you don't want me to." Her silence was answer enough. The thunder cracked, and she flinched. I reached out without thinking, my hand finding her arm, her skin cool from the open window. She didn't move, didn't breathe, just watched my hand stay there a second too long. I keep telling myself this is wrong, she whispered. But it never feels wrong when you're here. I wanted to say something, anything, but words felt useless next to how she was looking at me. Half afraid, half drawn in. Her hand rose, hesitated, then brushed my chest. Just once. The smallest touch, but it hit like a pulse. She looked up at me, eyes wet, voice trembling. You make me remember what it's like to want something without planning for the fallout. Then don't plan, I said. Her laugh was quiet and almost sad. You think it's that easy? No, I said. But I think you want it to be. We stood there, inches apart, everything inside the room holding still. The rain outside softened, turning into a hush that made the silence between us louder. She reached up, fingertips grazing my jaw, pausing there. I could feel her hand shaking. If we do this, she said, we don't go back. I know. Say it, she whispered. So I believe you. I don't want to go back. Her breath caught. The space between us closed. Not suddenly, but like it had been closing all along, inch by inch, word by word. Her forehead touched mine. Neither of us moved to finish it. It wasn't about the kiss anymore. It was about the choice that hung in the air, the knowing that whatever happened next would change everything. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely there. Then stay. I didn't answer with words. I just stayed. Still, close enough to feel her heartbeat through the quiet. Outside, the storm began to pass. Inside, something else did too, that long, waiting ache between us turning into something simple, undeniable, and real. For the first time, neither of us looked away. Morning came slow. The rain had stopped sometime before dawn, leaving the air heavy and clean. Sunlight crept across her living room floor, catching the half-empty mugs, the throw blanket tangled near the couch. Elena was sitting by the window, legs tucked beneath her, hair still damp at the ends. She looked peaceful, but there was something thoughtful in the way she kept tracing the edge of her sleeve. The same quiet gesture I'd noticed that first night. When she turned and saw me, her expression softened. You're still here, she said, almost teasing. You told me to stay. I didn't think you would. I moved closer, barefoot on the wood floor, the warmth of morning already pushing out the chill. I thought about leaving, I admitted, but it didn't feel right. She smiled, small but real. It's strange, she said. I spent years wanting space, quiet, my own bed. And now I wake up and the first thing I notice is someone else breathing. I sat beside her, close enough that our shoulders brushed. Does it bother you? No, she said softly. It scares me, but it doesn't bother me. We watched the light move slowly across the wall. The world outside was starting again. Car doors, birds, life carrying on as if nothing had shifted. But everything had. She leaned her head back against the wall, eyes half closed. People will talk, she said. Let them, I said. They don't know us. Her lips curved slightly. They'll say I should have known better. Maybe, I said. But I think you finally did. That made her laugh. A quiet, unguarded sound that filled the space between us. She turned toward me, studying my face for a long moment. You remind me what it's like to start over, she said. To not plan everything. And you make me want to be someone who doesn't run from what he wants. Her eyes shimmered a little in the morning light. She reached for my hand, slow, uncertain, then laced her fingers through mine. Her palm was warm, her grip light but sure. We sat like that, just breathing, her thumb tracing circles across my skin. It wasn't the rush of the night before, or the tension that had carried us here. It was quieter, grounded. I leaned closer, pressed my forehead against hers. So what happens now? I asked. She smiled, eyes closing. We live with it, whatever it is. The words settled between us, steady and true. Outside, sunlight caught on the wet pavement, and somewhere down the hall a door opened. A radio started. Life continued. But for a moment, none of that mattered. We just stayed there, two people who had already crossed the line and found. Somehow it wasn't a breaking point but a beginning. Her voice came barely above a whisper. Don't go yet. I wasn't planning to. And I didn't. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?